I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network as Special Counsel Jack Smith has arrived back in Washington, D.C. He is hard at work assembling a dream team of lawyers in connection with his criminal investigation of Donald Trump. These lawyers who are joining Special Counsel Jack Smith's team include lawyers who Jack Smith has worked with before at the Department of Justice, lawyers who Jack Smith trusts, lawyers who are leaving lucrative private sector jobs to join Jack Smith's team. This is yet another sign that Special Counsel Jack Smith's criminal investigation will likely result in a criminal indictment of Donald Trump and others in Donald Trump's inner circle. Why else would this team be forming now? Why else would these lawyers be leaving their other positions where they're very happy in to join Special Counsel Jack Smith's team, someone who is known for engaging in aggressive criminal prosecutions, if indeed there wasn't going to be a criminal prosecution here? So all signs point to the green light on criminal investigations of Donald Trump and those in Trump's inner circle. When I'm talking about the lawyers who are joining Special Counsel Jack Smith's dream team, I'm talking about people like Ray Holzer and people like David Harback. Now, Ray Holzer, who has just been hired by Special Counsel Jack Smith, previously led the Justice Department's Public Integrity Section, and David Harback previously served as a counsel to former FBI Director James Comey. Now, what should be of note here when I'm referring to the Public Integrity Section, Special Counsel Jack Smith, when he was at the Department of Justice, he also led the Public Integrity Section. He worked with Ray Holzer in that capacity. Trust Ray Holzer. Ray Holzer has an incredible reputation. And what also should stand out with both of these prosecutors is that they both have reputations of prosecuting bribery cases, of prosecuting the biggest corruption cases, of prosecuting mafia-style cases. So bringing in these lawyers right now in connection with the Trump investigation is basically putting the chess pieces on the board that's going to be needed to checkmate Donald Trump. Talking about Harback, Harback's one of those lawyers who was in private practice most recently at a firm called O'Melveny and Myers for the past year. I don't know for a fact what Harback was making at O'Melveny, but I could tell you from experience, knowing the type of money they pay, Harback was probably making a seven-figure salary there that he's leaving to now not to make anywhere near a seven-figure salary working for Special Counsel Jack Smith. The firm O'Melveny and Myers released a statement complimenting Harback on the excellent work that he did. Harback and Holzer are joining a team of about 20 other Department of Justice lawyers who have already been assembled. For example, lawyers like Thomas Wyndham, who has previously been working with the Department of Justice in all those grand jury proceedings that we've been talking about here on the MeidasTouch networks. There's been a great degree of continuity from the Merrick Garland work to the Special Counsel Jack Smith work. So now those 20 or so lawyers who have already been working on the Trump criminal investigations in the various grand juries, that team now gets bolstered. Special Counsel Jack Smith's now finding these top former prosecutors, these top prosecutors, to put them in place because what he's doing is he's building a trial team here. And Harback, who I just mentioned, he served in the Justice Department's Public Integrity Section as well. He was a trial attorney there and a deputy chief during Jack Smith's time when Jack Smith ran the office. So Jack Smith knows what a great trial lawyer Harback is. Harback's also known for prosecuting very high-profile prosecutions, including that of former Virginia Governor Robert McDonnell. That conviction, though, was ultimately overturned by the United States Supreme Court, as well as former presidential candidate John Edwards. The trial ended in a partial acquittal and a mistrial, and also Harback spent 2 years working with Smith in Kosovo, in the Kosovo Special Prosecutor's Office. And Harbach was also a special counsel to Comey in the Federal Bureau of Investigations. In addition to Harbach, the other lawyer who I mentioned, Ray Holzer, has been working at the Department of Justice throughout this time, and he previously led the public integrity section there. So as I mentioned, those other criminal grand jury proceedings that Thomas Windham, who's part of this team, has been overseeing. Remember, there's at least two main criminal grand jury proceedings taking place right now in Washington, D.C. One involves the January 6th insurrection. It involves the fake elector scheme. It involves Donald Trump's it's being investigated, so purportedly unlawful, but we all know it was unlawful. His unlawful intimidation and threats to state and local election officials. And then there's also another grand jury, of course, that is investigating Donald Trump's theft of thousands of government records, top secret, sensitive, compartmented records that have placed American assets, that have placed our troops, that have placed all Americans in risk based on the fact that these documents have been mishandled, as well as Donald Trump's obstruction of justice, his obstruction of the criminal investigation, of the Department of Justice work in trying to locate those records. We know, for example, false declarations were provided to the Department of Justice, that the documents were apparently moved from different rooms, and that efforts were made to evade the Department of Justice there. Now, when Special Counsel Jack Smith arrived with this team of 20 Department of Justice lawyers who have already been assembled. By the way, when Special Counsel Jack Smith was in Europe, when he was at The Hague, he was recovering from a bicycle accident that he had. That's why he's only just arriving now, but he was doing a lot of work there. And so when he arrived, the fruits of that work were made available to him. So he's been assembling his team. He's also been issuing tons of subpoenas. We've done videos on this, that it's been raining subpoenas from the special counsel's office to local and state election officials, everybody, for example, from the Board of Supervisors in Maricopa County to election officials in Milwaukee County, to election officials in Clark County, Nevada, to election officials in Michigan, to election officials in Wisconsin. Election officials across the country have got these subpoenas from Special Counsel Jack Smith in Pennsylvania, for example, in New Mexico, as just another example. And there, those are independent criminal charges that could potentially be brought against Donald Trump for intimidating and threatening and extorting state and local election officials there to change the results of their elections and to not certify the results of the election. So when we're talking about the January 6th criminal investigation, right, it's not just that day. It's all the other conduct, the conduct in Georgia, where Donald Trump called Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and extorted him and yelled at him and screamed at him and unlawfully told him, find me votes that don't exist to overturn the results of the election. Those are all things that Special Counsel Jack Smith is focused on. So when he arrived, he got lots of new documents. Specifically, we're learning he got lots of new documents from Clark County election officials in Nevada, as well as Milwaukee County officials in Wisconsin. And so those documents have been turned over to Special Counsel Jack Smith. Those documents have not been produced to the January 6th committee yet or to the Department of Justice yet. And it is believed that those documents include lots of communications from the Trump campaign, basically threatening these election officials and pressuring these election officials. So that is good news for Special Counsel Jack Smith. Also, the Department of Justice has been winning all of their motions so far in these grand jury proceedings that have been taking place in Washington, D.C. These are secret grand jury proceedings. That's all criminal grand jury proceedings by their very nature are secret, including these ones. And for example, the executive privilege claims that have been asserted by Donald Trump to try to block the testimony of Pat Cipollone, of Patrick Philbin, his top White House lawyers, as well as his attempt to try to block the testimony of Mark Short, former Vice President Pence's former chief of staff, and Greg Jacobs, former Vice President Pence's former general counsel. I'm trying to block their testimony regarding their communications with Donald Trump. Trump failed to block that. The federal judge presiding over the criminal grand jury proceedings that are taking place in Washington, D.C., Judge Beryl Howell, compelled the testimony of those individuals. So the January 6th committee doesn't even have the testimony, the direct testimony regarding communications with Trump. If you'll recall, when Cipollone and Philbin and Short and Jacob, when they testified before the January 6th committee, they would say, based on executive privilege, we can't say specifically what we said to Trump or what Trump told us. But now Jack Smith has that information. So a dream team of lawyers, a new treasure trove of discovery and documents. Will a charging decision be made soon? Bloomberg News reported that a charging decision can happen in the next few weeks. My own view, I think a charging decision will likely happen more like April or May. Hey, Preet Bharara, the United States attorney who knows far more than me, he was the head attorney in New York in the United States Attorney's Office there in the Southern District of New York. He's predicted that there would be indictments, he believed, in January or early February. To me, that's a little ambitious based on, I still think, some of the moving parts that are taking place in the grand jury, where we are with the other subpoenas, the fact that Jack Smith is still building his team. So I think it's more April or May, but most legal observers believe that indictments are coming, that it's not a matter of if, and it's a matter of when. And certainly the hiring of Ray Holzer and the hiring of David Harback, these top lawyers now joining Tom Windham and the other top Department of Justice lawyers. This dream team has assembled. You wouldn't assemble your dream team unless you're going to battle, unless you're going to war against a traitor like Donald Trump. So to be continued. We will see, and of course, we will keep you updated here every step of the way on the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button. We are on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to your support. Hit the subscribe button now. And in addition, check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We have lots of exclusive content you can only get on our Patreon site, but most importantly, help grow this independent media platform. We have no outside investors, so if you can help out that way, great. If not, no worries. Patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.